Look at this face. Come on. Let's find her home.
All right, Sam, thank you very much. But now we are tracking some severe weather.
Yeah, that's right. We've got Matt Milosevic. Matt, what is going on over there?
Yeah, we have plain old rain in Louisville and through much of the area. But remember, I was talking about some storms down south. There's a little different environment going on. The winds are southerly. We have some thunderstorms. And just recently, the National Weather Service did issue not just a severe thunderstorm, but a tornado warning for this particular cell. Now, I want to bring you into Munfordville. This is Hart County, which is just outside the WLKY region. But as we go farther off to the north and east, this does encompass northern Greene County. It is north of you in Greensburg, so it does not affect you in the Greensburg area. Summersville, you're also not in this warning. But if you live north in northern Greene County, also southern portions of LaRue County, this storm is for you. It's in effect until 6 o'clock, so we're going to be with you here for about the next 33 minutes until this warning is either canceled or expires. Now, we are talking fairly rural areas, but we're tracking it for you. If you know the area, Jonesville at 541, Powder Mill 542, and 555 around Bloyd's Crossing. So this is going to be through northeastern portions of Hart County, northern Greene, right along the LaRue County line. Now, if you are watching us in Hodgenville, this is south of you, so it does not include you in Hodgenville, doesn't include you in Upton or even Buffalo, Kentucky, there into eastern LaRue County. So this is really skirting some locations between some of the bigger population centers across the WLKY area. But what I want you to show you, and if you watch severe weather with us often, you know with tornado warnings we look for hook echoes that kind of look like a bit of a backward C, if you will, that kind of curls in and around here almost like a kidney bean fashion. That's what we look for, where the winds that are a little more southerly coming into the storm start to wrap around and twist. All the rain that's coming into the metro right now is from an area of low pressure, but it's farther to the south that we have to watch on the storm velocities. Remember, we get the reds and the greens that are close to each other, and that indicates that rotation in this storm. Now, this is radar indicated in terms of the tornado potential. There's not been one spotted on the ground, but very close to Munfordville. And also remember, here we're in the pre-dawn hour, so it'd be tough to see anyway. So the Munfordville area is under the gun for the potential here for this tornado, as it will be moving off to the north and east from there. Most of that circulation goes immediately north of Canmer, but also near Powder Mill. And again, we're talking rural communities out here into portions of eastern Hart County, but also into northern Greene County. So we'll keep close eyes on this. You see the few lightning strikes as well. Meteorologist Mo Rose running the radar for me, showing that rotation detection too. When we look at the bigger storms, like if you think back a couple of weeks ago to what we saw down towards LaRue and Pulaski County, boy, the rotation detector was spinning crazy style with like reds and yellows. We're talking lighter shades of green here. So this storm generally showing weaker signs of rotation. And again, this is radar indicated storm, but nonetheless, there is a tornado warning for it. We're going to talk lightning strikes. There's at least one good one there in the northern portions of Hart County, and some pouring rain, maybe even the potential for a little bit of small hail out of this one as well, indicating half-inch hail. That's going to be about the size of about a dime or so across the area, maybe up to nickels with this. But some of that will also melt as it starts to fall out of the clouds and reach the ground. Now, we do have severe thunderstorm issues down farther to the south. Once you get towards the parkways and northward, the environment is different, and it's not going to support thunderstorm activity that can become strong to severe. This is just all rain across southern Indiana, Louisville, the Ohio River Valley, including you in Elizabethtown, Bardstown, and also back over to Litchfield. But as you get south of the parkways, we get into a little bit of a different environment with some of these showers and storms, especially for our far southern communities. So if you live not just in Hart County, but again, northern Greene and far southern and eastern portions of LaRue County, this is where for the next 30 minutes, we have a radar indicated tornado warning in effect for these portions of the WLKY region. Overall, that sign of rotation is not overly strong, but it is there. So it is something that we're going to have to watch. And remember, in our images of the radar, we can watch the velocities inside the storm, the wind inside the storm. And we do have that pretty close to each other. Anytime you see those alternating areas of green and red, that shows us differentiating winds that are twisting in the atmosphere and creating, at the very least, some strong straight line wind gusts. But when you get that twisting and turning, that's when we turn our attention to the possibility of a tornado there. And again, this is right just off towards the east of the Munfordville area. This storm has been moving off to the northeast around 35 miles per hour. Mo Rose is tracking that. And again, this goes through mainly rural sections of eastern Hart County, but it will eventually get into northern Greene County. So if you live north of Summersville, north of Greensburg, this is well north of you. Also want to mention Hodgenville. This is well south of you. So it doesn't include some of the larger population centers in both LaRue and Greene County. So that's some good news. But if you live in, near, or around the Powder Mill area and Bloyd's Crossing as we get 5:45 to 6 o'clock, this is when you're going to need to take shelter for this storm. Because again, things are going to be tough to see. It is the pre-dawn hour, so it is dark out there, but we have radar indications not only with tons of heavy rain and thunder and lightning, but also the potential for strong wind gusts and maybe even a tornado. And some of the indications with this storm, again, it has the structure, it has the signs of a strong to severe storm out there. And that is the reason the National Weather Service put out this tornado warning for the next few minutes. So we're going to continue to watch it. The rainfall is steady across the region, but boy, it's enhanced with any thunderstorms. This isn't going to rain 7.5 inches because the whole storm's moving quick enough, but the instantaneous rainfall rate is around 7.5 inches per hour. So that is a blinding rain at the very least if you're trying to drive through this, and I don't think you should. That's what we're going to be dealing with in terms of heavy rain, thunder, lightning, and we watch the winds in this storm as well because they have been twisting. The storm velocities with this is really what we keep eyes on very, very closely because we can see where we indicate in the red here, that's going to be a little lighter in the winds, but this kind of brighter shade of green is upwards of 50 miles per hour, around 51. Mo, could you query that little section of red right next to it? It's going to be lighter, but I want to show the differentiating winds, the winds that are going into the storm versus out and around it. And I know sometimes it's tough to get in on those, but we're looking at, it does show some of that twisting in and around that storm that could be upwards of 60, 70, maybe even 80 miles per hour with the shear. It's interesting that it's showing up as 0. It really shouldn't be because we will have winds that'll be different. I saw that 34 there. So that's, you combine the negative and the positive numbers, and that gets us, you know, well into the 50s, 60s, 70s in terms of the wind associated with the rotating portion of this thunderstorm, even though it's not showing up great there on the radar. It is showing a good presentation in this area, right in the Hinesdale area. We are looking east of Munfordville. So this is eastern portions of Hart County. It is over an hour south of the metro in terms of drive time. So we watch eastern Hart County as this moves off to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. Let's take a wide view, Mo, if we can, with the rain on this, because I want to kind of get everyone back to where we are here. I do not see a severe weather threat whatsoever from the parkways, E-Town, Bardstown, north into Louisville and southern Indiana. This is just a rainy and a soaking rainy start to the morning. If this particular cell out of Hart County can hold together, we are going to have to watch it through extreme northwestern Taylor County, but away from you in Campbellsville, also potentially into Marion County. And I would say between Raywick and Lebanon, maybe even closer to Springfield. If this can hold together, those are some of the larger areas and in terms of the cities in our southern communities that'll have to be on the lookout for this, because again, we can take that box and if we extend it just a little further, that goes through central portions of Marion County and also northwestern Taylor County if this storm can hold together. And so far, it's been showing pretty solid representation on the radar into Hart County. That's where the strongest part of this storm is. As Mo zooms in, this is now moving east of Munfordville, but you can see that little pendant on that storm hanging down. That shows the indications of the rotation with this thunderstorm that has prompted the tornado warning. It's in effect until 6 o'clock in the eastern time zone. I know Hart County, you get into the central time zone, so that's going to be the 5 o'clock hour. So really for the next about 25, coming up on 24 minutes now, we have this storm. So putting a track on it as it moves off to the north and east, around 35 miles per hour. Powder Mill 543, the Badger area around 604. That would be far northwestern portions of Taylor County. So again, that goes a little bit beyond the warning, but we watch it closely because that little area of rotation has held tight since back towards Munfordville. So the last 3 or 4 scans of the radar, which update every couple of minutes, has really shown that this storm is holding together. So there's a potential that once this storm gets to the edge of that flashing red box or the tornado warning, which is northern portions of Greene County, there's a potential that could be extended farther to the north and east. And this is really the only storm cell that we're monitoring. Everything farther to the north is just plain old rain out there. And it is something we're going to have to keep in mind as we make our way through the remainder of the morning. Soaking wet weather and temperatures right around 60 degrees for the morning rush. But we have to keep eyes on this thunderstorm that has been prompting tornado warnings across the area. We really have 2 boxes out there. The orange box is a severe thunderstorm warning, which goes a little further outside the tornado warning because we have some heavy rain. We have the potential for a few hailstones too, but the main concern with this particular storm cell is that little curling hook echo that's between, let's say, east of Munfordville now by several miles, but north of Canmer, also into northeastern portions of Hart County here. We've been highlighting that Powder Mill area. I know that's a very small town, but nonetheless, it's something that we'll watch closely because it is moving in that direction. And I want you to notice, too, the rotation detection, that's starting to increase a little bit with time as well. We didn't have this area of red just a couple of scans ago back off towards the south and west, but now we do. So this is a storm that is gaining a little more intensity across the area. And it's one that bears watching. So if you are in the areas of northeastern Hart County, but into northern Greene and extreme southeastern LaRue County. So if you live along the Greene, LaRue County, and Hart County line, where all 3 of those counties combine, that's where I want you in your safe place. Get towards the basement or an interior room. This is a storm that is rotating, has a tornado warning on it, and it does look fierce right now on the Doppler radar. So it really is one that we'll have to watch. It'll also have the potential to drop a little bit of hail. It could be up to the size of about nickels, so we don't see anything too large in terms of hailstones, but nonetheless, with an intense thunderstorm like this, we could definitely get some of that as well as the heavy rainfall. Now, officially, Hart County is not in our WLKY area, but northern portions of Greene County and southeastern LaRue County are. So that's why we're going to stay with you through this warning over the next 21 minutes, even beyond, if it gets extended. So we're putting a little bit of a pause in our morning newscast so we can keep you updated here on this storm. The rainfall with this is also blinding, very intense, upwards of 7.5 inches per hour. The good news is it's not going to rain for an hour. This storm is moving off to the northeast at 35 miles per hour, but that could still put down a quick 1, maybe even 2 inches of rain. So we're going to watch for some flooding concerns, at least in terms of ponding on roadways. It also makes it tough because the sun isn't rising yet. All right, we look at storm velocity too. Now, this is what I really want to highlight because this is where the strongest part of this storm has been showing up. The rotation areas with the bright shades of green, the darker shades of red, that shows the rotation in the thunderstorm. And that's what's great about Doppler radar. It allows us to see this even if there aren't eyes visually showing what's going on the ground. We can look and we can infer on the Doppler radar that we have a storm that is well put together, is rotating and has been doing so for the better part of the last 15 to 20 minutes across the area. So that is the reason for the tornado warning across the area. I want to mention again, this no longer includes the Munfordville area. So if you do pick us up in Hart County, Munfordville, you're no longer under a tornado warning. Greensburg's at the bottom of your screen. So the county seat of Greene County, you are not in this. But as you head north of Summersville, that's where you get in the highway between Summersville up towards LaRue County. That's where we're going to be watching this. And I want you to notice the Weather Service just did something. I really like what they did. They nudged out LaRue County here from this particular tornado warning. So we watch back off towards the Powder Mill area in northeastern Hart County, but instead of including that extreme southeastern portion of LaRue County, they updated it just a little bit. So LaRue County is now completely out of the tornado warning. It does include this northern section of Greene County, right along the highway that runs north from Greensburg up to Summersville and up in towards LaRue County. That's the area that we're going to want to watch here with this particular storm. And it continues to show rotation there on the storm velocity image. Mo is moving this storm off towards the north and east. So these are some of the cities and the times. I know these are small areas. This is mainly rural sections of the WLKY area, but Powder Mill, Bloyd's Crossing, Badger, all in the next let's say 15 to 20 minutes with this storm. I want you to be moving towards the center portions of your room, of your home quickly, and also the basements. Those are the safest places to be in storms like this because we continue to see a pretty solid area of rotation with this storm. If we can, Mo, could we just expand out just a little bit? I want to show that rotation or that storm relative velocity as it moved from about, let's say, around Munfordville up to the north and east, because I want you to show everyone this is the area of the storm that we've been watching. And so a few scans ago, what prompted the tornado warning was right around the Munfordville area. And now as that holds together and moves off to the north and east and even gets a little more intense, at least in its radar indication, that's why we have close eyes on this, because notice, that's the part of the storm that we're paying close attention to as it moves through eastern and northeastern portions of Hart County. But it has, again, held together very, very well and is getting ready to move into northern portions of Greene County in the next few minutes. So as we get towards, let's say 5:48. So about the next 5 or 6 minutes, it's going to cross out of Hart County and into Greene County, and we're going to have to pay very close attention to it as it continues to move off towards the north and east. Hey, Mo, I want to bring you in on this. I know you were monitoring our lines with the National Weather Service and also social media. Are you seeing anything, getting any reports from this particular storm system, or are we still talking radar-indicated tornado?
Still talking radar-indicated at this point, you know, and I love that they were able to scale back on that LaRue County part of the storm. They're monitoring it very closely, so that is some good news. But at this point, still radar indicated. We're not getting any reports of damage, but as you also mentioned, these are very rural areas. So because of that, we're probably, and it's dark, it's kind of tough to see what's going on. So if you do live in an area that is within that red box, whether you're just outside of the viewing area or within our viewing area, please find your safe place. It really is important that, you know, we are trying to keep you safe. And if you have the WLKY app on your phone, bring the phone with you down to the safe place. If you have a basement, you want to find the lowest part of your home. If you don't have a basement, put as many walls between you and the storm as possible. An interior room, maybe a bathroom. The plumbing's usually connected to the ground, so that's kind of the safe place for you to be if you do not have a basement.
Yeah, and Mo, we're watching this one closely. I was just kind of looking at the latest update on the radar. At least on reflectivity, it looks a little bit weaker. But I know on the storm rotation, we were showing a stronger look there. So it's one that we'll keep close eyes on because it's right around the Powder Mill area that we're watching this radar indicated tornado, but it's one that is showing some representation of at least some strength. So I don't think this is just a warning for a particularly bad storm. This is one that we definitely have to pay very close attention to because I was telling you earlier, the environment from far southern communities to the north is different across the WLKY area. And here we are zoomed in towards our far southern communities where we do have an environment that's more supportive of thunderstorms, and in this case, rotating thunderstorms. And now most showing you, this is what's called gate-to-gate shear. And what you can do is you can add some of these numbers together. And sometimes they can go a little higher, sometimes they can go a little lower, but we see 50 miles per hour negative, but you can forget about the negative. You just add both of them together, 67 miles per hour. That's at least a radar indication. And where the radar scans down into northeastern portions of Hart County, it's a little higher up in the clouds. So this is giving us a representation of rotation, but it may not be exactly what is going on. But we do have at least the possibility of potentially 65, 70, maybe even higher mile per hour winds within this storm and the signs of rotation with it. So that's what's prompted the tornado warning from the National Weather Service. It goes until at least 6 o'clock this morning. So for the next 14 minutes, it's 5 o'clock if you're in the central time zone for some of our southern communities. But we continue to monitor it. Some of the storm velocities have shown some change, but we still keep those lighter shades of green and the deeper shades of red very close to each other. So still a storm that is very strong and showing those indications of rotation, 64 mile per hour winds there, and then 22 on the reverse side. So again, you add them together, that's 86 miles per hour. While this may not be the perfect representation of a strong tornado out there, we could still be talking EF0, EF1s, that's the type that we more frequently see across our region. But nonetheless, it's out there, and it's one that is going to not only grab your attention, but should have you going to your safe place. Again, Mo mentioned it, center portions of your home, basement, safest place if you have it, because this storm is still holding together, and its representation on the radar is a good one. It also has the potential for some hail, half-inch size hail, a possibility with this storm, so it doesn't look to be a huge hail maker, mainly concerned more so with the heavy rain and, again, the tornado potential with the rotation within this storm, as it's going to start to move out of northeastern Hart County and into northern Greene County in the next few minutes. I think if there is any good news is that we're only tracking this one particular cell. Across the rest of the WLKY region, especially off to the north, this is all a rainmaker, and it's going to be very rainy through the peak of the morning rush. So if you're watching us in Louisville, you're watching us in southern Indiana, it's all rain across the area. We're just watching this particular storm that's moving into far northern portions of Greene County and the rural communities across the WLKY area. So we have to keep close eyes on it for sure. But just know if you're headed out the door of the next few minutes, we're in the Louisville and surrounding communities, it is just plain old rain. So you're going to need to account for that. Grab the umbrellas. We're going to keep the rain gear around because we're going to keep shower chances off and on even into the afternoon. But you can see on the radar quite a bit of rainfall across the region. A little bit of that's letting up around Litchfield and south and western Grayson County, but that's about it. The main game today is going to be the rainfall farther to the north. Once we start to break apart this rain a little later in the afternoon, we'll get highs in the 70s. So that's what you need to plan for as you head out and get your day started. But we're watching the tornado warning down towards north and eastern portions of Hart County. Again, this is now away from Munfordville. It's south of you from Hodgenville. It's north of you in Greensburg. So it's really slicing through the middle portions of the main population centers of our southern communities. But do you see that line? This is the line that we're going to continue to monitor as this heads on through our far southern communities. Greene, Taylor, even Adair County, you'll have the potential for some stronger storms with that line moving on through, so perhaps some brief high wind gusts, heavy rain. And again, where any storms can get some rotation, that possibility of an isolated tornado that we've been seeing now with this particular cell that's right along the Hart and Greene County line. It's also in a favorable location within this line of thunderstorms. The northern side of lines of thunderstorms also contend to be where we get more rotation with these thunderstorms. Here you are in Greensburg. So if you're watching us in Greene County and you're seeing it crawling, the information at the top of your screen says Greene County tornado warning. You are not under a tornado threat in Greensburg right now. In fact, there's only just a few sprinkles in your neighborhoods. The steadier rain and storms is towards the Hart County line off towards your west, and the worst of this thunderstorm is off towards your north. Same can be said in Campbellsville. If you're watching us in Taylor County, the farther north and west you live in Taylor County, closer to the Greene-LaRue County line, we want to put our guard up in case this storm holds together and moves farther off towards the north and east beyond where the tornado warning is right now. This tornado warning is in effect for the next 10 minutes. The strongest part of rotation, this is really what we're monitoring with this storm, because the hail isn't big, and while the rain is heavy, we're not talking about flash flood warnings. We are talking tornado warnings right along the Greene and Hart County line, north of Powder Mill, north and west of Summersville, and south of Magnolia. So it's right in this area that we're watching for rotation. And this is a storm that's been rotating all the way back before it got to Munfordville. And Mo Rose is running the radar she's showing you. We went back in time just a little bit to show that these areas of red and green, that's the rotation within this storm, has held together over the last several minutes through the duration of this warning. Now, these can tend to fluctuate. The fluctuation most recently with that scan is one of a weaker trend. That's good news. When we elongate rotation a little more in radar scans, that starts to show perhaps more of a straight line wind gust potential. Sometimes these can wrap back up. They often do. So they can fluctuate in their intensity, but we're watching right now a little bit perhaps of some good news in terms of tornado potential with this. If we can elongate or stretch out that rotation more, you almost think of it like an ice skater. When they're all kind of balled up, you can spin around really quickly, but when you kind of elongate yourself, that spin slows down. And so that's what we're hoping for with this particular cell, because we have a line of storms along the Greene and Hart County line, and on the northern edge of that line, right in this area, is where we have that best potential for rotation. Now, the tornado warning goes for the next 8 minutes. In this 8-minute time frame, the National Weather Service, kind of like what we're doing with you right now, is going to continue to analyze this storm, and they're going to look and see, do they believe if that rotation is going to hold together enough to prompt a tornado warning. And again, this is a radar indicated tornado warning, but so far the radar has been indicating that we do have at least that potential over the last several minutes. So if they expect that will continue off towards the north and east, and I think at the very least there's a 50-50 chance with that, we could see this box extend off towards the north and east a little bit, and that would encompass far northwestern Taylor County and far southeastern portions of LaRue County, where LaRue County kind of sticks out like a thumb there. That's going to be some of the potential next portions of those counties up for tornado warnings, maybe even into Marion County as well. So we'll see if it holds together. The last scan of the radar, again, shows a little bit more of perhaps some straight line wind potential, but most recently, over the last 15 to 20 minutes since we've been tracking this, this has been a well put together, small but well put together area of rotation within this thunderstorm here. So now the Munfordville area, even closer to Canmer, Powder Mill, the worst of it is heading off towards the north and east. The worst of this storm is now starting to nudge into northern portions of Greene County, very close to the county line. And we just got the latest radar update that shows that rotation continues to be north, well north of Summersville. So if you're watching us in Summersville, you're in the clear. It's raining heavily in Magnolia, Kentucky, in the southern LaRue County, but the worst of this storm is off to your south. So we're between Magnolia, we're between Summersville, northern Greene County, heading on off towards the north and east at about 30 to 35 miles per hour. And so as we continue, again, to stretch that portion, the worst portion of this storm, off to the north and east, the small town of Badger, right into northwestern portions of Taylor County, that would be at 6:06. So that's a little bit beyond the tornado warning. So we'll see if this gets extended. There is that potential because still the core rotation with that storm, while looking a little weaker, a little more elongated in nature, has still been holding together. Now, I'm going to send it back over to Mo. Mo, has there been any reports of damage that you've gotten? I know you're trying to run radar and keep eyes on the Weather Service, too, but is there any indication of damage, the storm being on the ground with a tornado, or the Weather Service potentially extending this warning?
Okay, so no damage has been reported. It is still early. There's not a lot of folks, and this is more rural areas where the storm is happening. However, I did see that the National Weather Service is holding off on continuing this tornado warning. They are noticing that there is some weakening that's happening. They want to get a couple more scans in before they decide what to do, because, you know, sometimes storms begin to weaken and then all of a sudden they pick up energy again and they wrap back up. So that's just why we need to monitor this a little bit longer. But I do like the way we are seeing some weakening with this storm. So hopefully when this expires at 6 o'clock, we can just call it and get back to programming. But until then, we really do want to stress, if you live within the path of this storm, it's incredibly important that you are away from windows, that you are putting as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Head to the basement. It looks like they have not continued a tornado warning, but they just reissued the storm that was just exiting the tornado warning as a severe thunderstorm warning. So what you're seeing now from the top of that tornado box, that red box, is a yellow box, and that's indicating that this was strong enough to be a severe thunderstorm. So they're at least continuing this warning as a severe thunderstorm. But at this point, even if you live in that yellow box, still need you away from windows, stay away from anything. You don't want to be outside. You don't want to be driving in this. This is incredibly heavy rain. You saw those rainfall rates. You can easily hydroplane if you're out and about, especially some areas that have poor drainage. You just got to be super careful. But it does look like, at least for now, they are not continuing that tornado warning. They have issued that severe thunderstorm warning just to monitor that, Matt.
All right, that really is some good news and some indications that the Weather Service also seeing the same things that we were talking about, is that the rotation within that storm becoming a little bit elongated to the point that we can now just kind of keep eyes on it as a severe thunderstorm warning that now goes into portions of, again, southeastern LaRue, western and southwestern Marion, and northwestern portions of Taylor County. Now, that severe thunderstorm warning also mentions the potential of a tornado possible with it. So if that rotation shows stronger signs of ramping back up again, like it was further back off to the south and west, we could see potentially another tornado warning issued. But right now, it looks to be mainly the potential for straight line strong wind gust here in excess of 60 miles per hour as it moves north and east, and again towards the small town of Badger around 6:06. And this is still the core of the storm that has a pretty decent look onto it on storm velocity on the radar. So again, it's going to continue to move off to the north and east. These are primarily very rural portions of the WLKY region, but we've mentioned Badger. I want to alert you in Raywick, 623. We've been kind of keeping eyes on you there into eastern or rather western and southwestern Marion County. If this storm were to hold together a little longer, once we get towards, let's say 6:30, 6:35, getting a little closer to you around Lebanon. So that's the next kind of larger city that I want to bring your attention to this storm, as well as the Springfield area into southern Washington County. If this holds together, those are going to be some of the larger cities in this area that could see the potential for strong, maybe even severe weather. Now, the rotation detector is still showing some of this, but it is, again, everything's just a little more elongated. So that's going to be some good news and shows straight line winds as opposed to tornadic winds. But nonetheless, a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust in the environment that we have into southern Kentucky is a possibility. Now, farther to the north, all rain in Louisville. If you're watching us from E-Town, Bardstown, along and north of the parkways up to the Metro and the Ohio River into southern Indiana, this is all just plain old rain and will continue to be for the next several hours. And I think through the peak of the rush, because notice that rain goes all the way back out towards Evansville, Owensboro, and into western Kentucky. So we're going to have plenty of rainfall. It's just down in our southern communities where the winds are a little more southerly, there's a little more humidity, there's a little more twisting in the atmosphere, and we really keep eyes on this line of thunderstorms. It's not severe, but if you're watching us in Greensburg, you're gonna get an uptick in the heavier rain, and we're also gonna have a couple of rumbles of thunder, and that'll be moving towards you in Campbellsville by about 6:15 to 6:20, so we'll keep close eyes on that. But watching most closely the core of this storm that still has some indications of rotation, but I want you to notice we just clicked over to 6 o'clock, and so the tornado warning has been allowed to expire, and so for the next 30 minutes, we'll be keeping eyes on this as a severe thunderstorm warning for northern Greene, northern portions of Taylor County, and also around the LaRue, Marion County line. So there you have it. With some rough weather when we're just talking about plain old pouring rain, but it just goes to show you the WLKY area goes all the way from just north of Seymour down towards Columbia, Kentucky, and the Cumberland Parkway. So, you know, that's about a 2.5-hour drive across the area. So you can have, and we often do see very changeable conditions. And in the case of this morning, we go from thunderstorms that prompted a tornado warning to just plain old soaking rain that y'all been hearing all morning long.
Yeah, when we started you out this morning letting you know it was an impact weather day, so of course you've been tracking that storm for a little more than 30 minutes now.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, we have been tracking that down in LaRue, parts of Greene County, and as well as Hart County. So if you're in those areas this morning, we hope you are safe. If you have any damage photos, if anything's happening, make sure you send that to us so that we can just get a grasp of what's happening down there. But Matt, thank you so much for keeping us updated on that this morning.
Yeah, going to keep watch on that storm as well as it remains severe. I think for about the next 30 to 45 minutes as it clears the south and eastern portions of the WLKY area. And then I think we're going to be in the clear of any potential for strong weather through the course of the morning ahead. This is, again, mainly just plain old rain. And know that that rain is going to taper off a little bit later into the afternoon. We'll catch a few breaks from time to time. Just keep the umbrellas nearby.
No breaks for Matt, though. The weather team this morning. Still on it, of course. That was really the thick of it, but he's going to keep tracking those storms. But in terms of the Metro, we are seeing lots of rain. Yeah, plain old rain, and that's all it is going to be across the area. So I want to keep eyes, I guess, on the rainfall. I think we're going to go back to the weather. Is that all you?
All right, let's do it, because this severe thunderstorm warning goes until 6:30 out across the area, and it's been a region that we've been watching very, very closely into northwestern portions of Taylor County. Hold on. Yeah, let's just, and just communicating with Mo, we're going to punch up kind of a regular show here to get you going. This 6:30 is the end of the severe thunderstorm warning in the northern portions of Taylor County. So that's what we're going to be watching for you over the next couple of minutes. But also, I want to keep you up to date on the soaking rain that's going on across the WLKY area, including into the metro this morning. We have quite a bit of rainfall out there. We've had temperatures that have started out mainly into the 60s. And right now, we'll put things into motion. I'm going to show you here. This is a lot of rainfall that we've had. That's the storm that we had eyes on through Hart, Greene, and now into Taylor County. That's the severe thunderstorm warning. Could catch a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust with the core of that storm that is away from you in Hodgenville. It's north of you in Greensburg, even though you're getting into some storms right now through Greene County, and it's north of you in Campbellsville. We'll keep heads up around Lebanon and Springfield over the next few minutes, so we're going to continue to keep close eyes on that. But you see the pouring rain farther on off towards the north. Temperatures upper 50s to near 60 degrees, pretty uniform in the numbers with the steady soaking rain. Now, as we head through our weekend, our Friday impact weather day, again, watching that one cell, especially off to the south, south with a few storms, but this is mainly rain. It becomes more scattered into the afternoon, so we'll catch a few breaks from time to time. And even though an isolated shower is possible on your Saturday, we are looking much, much drier. I think we have a lot of dry time in our Saturday skies at 77, completely dry as we head Saturday night into Sunday. We're going to be looking for conditions that'll be the pick of the weekend in our Sunday forecast. All right, now we got to get back to that storm, Mo, because we just had a reissuance of the tornado warning with this particular cell. Because as we've been monitoring, it's the same location that shows that potential for rotation. It's a radar indicated tornado, and it goes until 6:30 now into the Eastern time zone, 5:30 for our Central time zone. It is still a radar indicated rotation, but it has just picked back up in the far northwestern portions of Taylor County. This is near the Badger area. Remember, we've been doing the storm tracks here over the last about 35 to 40 minutes or so, and this was one of the locations that we were highlighting in the far northwestern Taylor County, right along the LaRue County line. So I do want to mention this is a very rural location of the WLKY region, but we have a couple of areas that we need to pay close attention to out ahead of this storm as well, including Raywick. We're going to watch closely if this particular rotation heads off to the north and east. I think it may skirt you just to the south, but we keep heads up in Raywick for about the next 15 minutes at 6:21, Lebanon potentially at 6:34 with this tornado warning, the edge of which goes towards the Lebanon area. We look at this red box. That's the tornado warning, and the edge of that goes right to the Lebanon area. So Lebanon, you are officially under the tornado warning, but you're going to have the better part of 25 to 30 minutes to watch this storm cell as it moves off towards the north and west. So if you're in Lebanon right now, we're going to continue to watch this. We're going to start headed towards our basements, heading towards the center of our homes, away from windows, because this has been a storm. And I tell you what, this hasn't really been short-lived. This developed back in the central portions of Hart County, so it's been showing strong rotation over the last better part of half an hour to 40, 45 minutes. It has thunder and lightning with it. It has rotation detected on the Doppler radar, and it's going to continue to move off towards the north and east. So I know there's no big cities out in this area of the tornado warning, but we cover the entire WLKY area regardless of that. And because we know we have people, we have property, we have livestock out there, we have to keep eyes on this as it moves right along that Taylor-LaRue County line and eventually in towards Marion County. And again, if that holds together towards the end of this warning box, we're going to have to keep close eyes on the Lebanon area and perhaps closer to the Washington County line near Springfield. So just want to give you a little bit of a heads up a bit further on down the line with this storm, but we pay very close attention to it right now. North of you in Campbellsville, it's well off to the south and east of you in Hodgenville. Greensburg, it's north of you, so those communities are not under tornado warnings, but we do have that tornado warning, that red box. The orange box around it's a severe thunderstorm warning. I think that can be a little bit confusing, but just know that the storm that we're mainly keeping eyes on is right here. That little batch along that LaRue-Taylor County line is the worst of it. It's north of you in Summersville, south of you in New Haven. So we're not concerned with any tornadoes there, but it's right in between that we have the core of this storm that is held together all the way back off into Hart County. Well, we're looking at the storm velocity right now. So the winds, the rotation within it. And Mo Rose has been running the radar all morning long and highlighting that while it may not sound like very strong wind gusts when you see 35 miles per hour, just a 5 mile per hour wind, there are strong indications of rotation within this storm. And so that's why the National Weather Service has been watching it closely, prompting the tornado warning earlier. There was a brief little lull because oftentimes storms like this can fluctuate, and it did. Back when it was moving out of northern Greene County, it looked a little bit more like a straight line wind gust, and then started to ramp back up into northwestern Taylor County. We go forward again. Notice we lost a little bit of those brighter shades or those almost like lime colored areas of green. So the rotation in the last couple of scans has been a little bit weaker, but they can pulse and go up and down. And so we still have the core of this storm, which is and has been locked in on the radar over the past several minutes, and will continue to track off towards the north and to the east. So again, we'll watch that very closely, especially the Raywick area. You're going to be up next in terms of watching it very intensely, because while it may skirt the core of this storm just to the south of you, it's going to be close enough that I want you to go ahead and just take the next couple of minutes to start making your way towards the center portions of your home and your basement. These tornado warnings are not going to be long-lived. This is just a short period of time through the course of the morning. So just take these 20, 30 minutes to go ahead and wrap up some preparations, get in your safe place. Let's get this passed, and by the time we're at the 7 o'clock hour, we're done with this completely. So let's just take a couple minutes of our day to stay safe in these storms that are rumbling on through. 50-mile-per-hour wind gust in that little cell right there, at the very least, straight line winds. Some indications back in the red. It's going to be lighter, much lighter, but it's the rotating part. The back edge of that storm system is and the winds that we're seeing is the rotating part of that storm that kind of curls in around and creates that rotation and that core of the thunderstorm that has still been showing signs of holding together, but I just saw that latest update on the storm velocity, and it's still there between Badger and Maple. So again, very rural portions of LaRue and Taylor County, but the rotation detector is less. If you've been with us the past several minutes while we've been tracking this, you know that just a few scans ago, we had these deeper shades of red. That was a stronger thunderstorm, stronger rotation. And now we're starting to see that as it moves off towards the north and east, that it's starting to weaken a little bit. And again, these will pulse back and forth a little bit, but boy, that last scan really stretches things out and weakens them as well. So we're going to hope that that continues, because we're starting to see signs on the radar that this rotation and this storm hopefully will just begin a more full-scale weakening trend across the area. Because I'll tell you, the environment, we're in the cool of the morning. We have a ton of rain surrounding this too. So that rain is also continuing to cool the atmosphere. So we know that when it comes to the recipe for tornadoes, we need strong and turning winds from the surface all the way up into our atmosphere, but we also need heat and humidity. That gives the fuel for these storms. And so the more that we rain in and around it, the less fuel these storms are going to have. And so this storm now doesn't look quite as well put together as it did back off towards the south and west. So we're going to hope we can continue a weakening trend and then hope that that trend goes further and further instead of this kind of back and forth where we've been the last 10 or 15 minutes with this particular storm cell. Now, we watch the area from where the tornado warning is, but we also keep an eye on this line that goes back through Taylor County, immediately west of you in Campbellsville, east of you now in Greensburg, so along the Taylor and Greene County line, and also down toward the Cumberland Parkway into south and western Adair County. Nothing on the radar right now showing severe weather with this, but notice there's some lightning strikes as well. That's an uptick in the storm potential, and it's going to be pushing off to the east. Everything's been moving around 35 miles per hour or so. So if you're watching us, let's say around Milltown 614, Cane Valley 621, but Columbia at 625, you're going to be one of the next in line for a little uptick in that rain and some thunderstorm activity at the very least. But this is the storm environment that is at least a little bit better than just the all rain farther to the north. So we'll just keep close eyes on it here. Again, it's going to push through Columbia in about 20 minutes, and then we'll be done, I think, with any storm threat through the course of the morning. Everything is all rain farther to the north. If you're watching us along the parkways from Litchfield, E-Town, Bardstown, all the way up to the capital city, and points to the north and west, including in and around Louisville, all of southern Indiana. No strong or severe storm threat. This is just a plain old morning soaker out there for your morning rush. If you're headed out in the next few minutes, just know temperatures around 60 degrees. We don't have any flash flood warnings out there, but the rain has been steady enough for ponding on the roadways and also the potential of some hydroplaning on your morning commute. So be very cautious with that. We're also keeping eyes, this goes until 6:30, for the storm that's right along the Taylor and LaRue County line, and as it moves into south and western portions of Marion County, we'll keep close eyes on that rotating part of this thunderstorm, but that rotation has definitely been weaker over the last couple of scans of the radar. So the hope is that that continues, and by the time we get to 6:30, we'll be done with any potential tornado warning expansions with this storm system. So we continue to monitor it, continue to watch it. You see the lightning strikes around it too, so it's a noisy go of it this morning, but the most recent trends on the radar show that rotation detector just kind of stretching things out. And in terms of what we want to see in tornado-warned storms, this is good news. We don't want to see compact, tight rotations that are spinning and have the potential to get stronger. We want to see elongated rotations that show weakening trends in thunderstorms. Also watching the wind, the hail. There has been indications of half-inch hail with this storm, at least in its core, through the last several minutes back over into the 5 o'clock hour as well. So if you're watching us near the Raywick area, not only are you getting into the strongest part of this storm from a rotation perspective, but we're also keeping close eyes for the potential, at the very least, some small hail. For hail to reach severe limits, it has to be 1 inch in diameter, or closer to quarter size, so I don't think that's going to be the case with this. We're definitely going to have heavy rainfall, and we're definitely going to have that potential for a rotating thunderstorm moving on through, moving out of now LaRue County. LaRue County is no longer under any portion of the tornado warning, as well as Taylor County. So we had a little bit of an update with the tornado warning that now just includes the western portions of Marion County, and it's also been adjusted a little bit. It still includes the Lebanon area out towards the west, towards Raywick. We keep close eyes on this part of the storm. Looks like it might try to be reorganizing just a little bit, kind of jumping a little further on off towards the east. But Mo Rose is tracking it through the tornado-warned area as it moves east and northeast at about 30 to 35 miles per hour. So we watch out in Lebanon around 6:35. And we're still going to keep our guard up because, again, this storm already once did a little bit of a head fake with a weakening trend and then ramp right back up. So we'll see if that's going to be the case again. But at least in the last several scans of the radar, it's looking a little weaker in nature. But we keep eyes in Lebanon at 6:35, Springfield at 6:45. Springfield, you are not under the tornado warning, but if that storm were to hold together, it's one that you need to monitor there into southern Washington County and along the Marion County line. So we'll continue to keep close eyes on this for you in the coming minutes, but nothing on the radar right now, at least, that is screaming the imminent threat for a tornado on the ground in the eastern portions of Marion County, and that is definitely good news. We're going to have the heavy rain, going to have the potential for some small, mainly pea, potentially dime-sized hail at worst. And I want you to notice, too, I was talking about this just a few minutes ago, it is raining all around this storm. So if you're someone who frequently follows severe weather with us, oftentimes the whole weather team, we talk about the storm environment and the air that's fueling this particular storm or any storm. And when we get too much rain, too much cooling of the atmosphere because of the rain, that's not good recipe for strong to severe storms. And I think that is what is starting to chip away at the strength of this particular storm that several minutes ago was very well put together into portions of Hart and northern Greene County. It seemed like once it moved towards that Taylor-LaRue County line, it was just kind of getting into that again, those ingredients that weren't quite there for severe weather. And that continues to be the case. Mo Rose is running run the radar for me, and we went back a couple of scans, and notice how those reds and greens were a little closer together back through portions of northern Taylor County. And then as it's moved off to the north and east, yeah, they're still red, they're still green, but they're not as close together. They're not as co-located as we would want to see, but we still have a little area very close to Raywick, Kentucky, where we're still seeing that potential for, at the very least, some weak rotation and the potential of a tornado. So if you're watching us in Raywick, I do want you in your storm shelters right now until that storm passes. The worst of it is basically on top of you right now. So in the next couple of minutes, that'll be pushing on off towards the east and away from you. It's immediately south of town, right here, where we have the best rotation with that storm. Maybe a little hint of an uptick in it recently, but as it moves off towards the north and east, I think it's going to go kind of cutting this particular warning a little bit more in half. The northern half looks to show a little more potential than the southern half. So if that were the case, that means it would go north of you in Lebanon. So meteorologist Mo Rose putting a track on this as it continues to push off towards the north and east, and that would track it into portions of northern and western Marion County and into very rural locations too. But nonetheless, if you live in that area between, let's say, Raywick and Springfield, that's where I think the best opportunity for this severe weather, the tornado potential, moving into the area of western Marion County. So the storm velocity continuing to show that rotation. We continue to have the box in red. That's the tornado warning that goes from near Lebanon back off into south and western portions of Marion County. That's going to be in effect for the next 10 minutes. So over the next 10 minutes, we start to get into that time frame where the National Weather Service, who's responsible for issuing these warnings that you hear that go off on your phone, that crawls the information on the top of your screen, and that flashes the boxes on our radar, they're going to be monitoring things to see, do we continue with the tornado warning farther off to the north and east? Because if we did, that would include Springfield and portions of Washington County. Or does this look to be more on a severe thunderstorm side, or would it weaken entirely? And so what I'm seeing right now on storm velocity and what meteorologist Mo Rose is showing as well as we zoom in is that immediately south of Raywick, just like we've had for almost an hour now, we have that rotation center. And while it has gone back and forth in strength recently, it is still there. So the core of this storm still exists, and it is one that has had a history of, well, producing rotation. Even though we haven't had a tornado reported on the ground with it, we still have areas of rotation within these storms. Did you see that latest update? We kind of get a little bit of a backward C indication. That could be a straight line wind gust with that too. And sometimes what happens after those is the storm can ramp back up. So we keep close eyes on it for sure. It's definitely a severe storm, I believe, right now. And while it may not be affecting the entire county, I think it's going to be a little narrow corridor for the worst of the weather, even potentially a little bit of rotation north of the St. Mary area, and that's a little further on off towards the west of Lebanon there by about, oh, say 10 miles or so. You start to see if that little area could be one of concern as well. Overall, I still think the main core of the storm is this one south of you in Raywick. It does look like it's just missing the Raywick area just south, so this is going to be fairly open areas of Marion County, but nonetheless, we're going to keep eyes on it so you can protect property and protect yourself and your family as well. This is a storm that I do want you in the basement for, do want you in the center parts of your house if when we do these storm tracks, it's calling out your towns and your city. So if you live west of the Lebanon area, closer to Raywick, that's the one that we need to watch out for. Even though the signs are and have been a little bit on the weaker side than what it was back when it was into Greene and Hart County, it's still one that we watch, still one that's showing the rotation out there. And on what has otherwise been, for the vast majority of the WLKY area, a very rainy start here to our Friday morning. So there's the rotation detector. Again, this is all west of the Lebanon area where we have the tornado warning for the next about 7 minutes now. I want to take a moment. I want to send it on over to Mo Rose and get a little bit of an update to see if there's been any information coming in from the Weather Service, Mo, or anything on social media.
Well, there has been, actually. They said that they're thinking about canceling this warning soon, but they're waiting to see another scan or two just to see if it wraps back up, which is, I mean, this storm has a history of doing it. It weakened, and then even, I think there was 2 scans ago, it looked like it was starting to tighten up. Now it's getting a little messier. However, you know, that rotation detector, starting to see a little bit more activity, you know, over by Frogtown, a little bit west or east of Raywick. So they're just keeping eyes on this, but it should, if they decide not to continue it, we should expire here in about 7 minutes, and then we can get back to programming. But this storm, you know, it does have, it had that tornado signature there, so they were wanting, or that velocity signature, so they wanted to just keep eyes on it. And notice in the rotation detector, that last scan, we're starting to see a little bit more in that northern or northeastern part of the that tornado warning. So just north of St. Mary, right over Loretta Road, relative velocity, you know, that first couplet that we were watching doesn't look that great, but now we got to look ahead of that, where we were seeing a little bit more of rotation.
Yeah, and you know what, Mo, and I think what that shows us, though, also is that things are a little discombobulated here, and it doesn't mean that it's not severe. It just means that instead of like some of the unfortunately stronger tornadoes that we saw in the state a couple of weeks ago down in portions of Laurel and Pulaski County that were extremely well put together and strong, violent tornadoes, this is not the particular case with this storm. But as Mo mentioned, we do see a little uptick in rotation a little farther east of the main core of what has been that storm. So it's getting stretched apart a little bit. It could potentially go through some reorganization, but the main core of that storm was moving off towards the north and east, south of Raywick. And then there were some signs, too, that we might be getting into a little bit of rotation, but it's weaker in nature across this tornado-warned area. So as Mo was mentioning, as the Weather Service was talking about, too, that this isn't looking like a great representation of a tornado-indicated or radar-indicated tornado right now. But we do have 5 more minutes to watch it here on the tornado warning. It goes until 6:30 here through Marion County. You're likely hearing the storm sirens in Lebanon and points on off towards the west. Now, if you live further south of the Lebanon area towards Greenbrier, Jessietown, Phillipsburg, no tornado threat for you. The same can be said into Greene and Taylor County. You had some warnings earlier. This is gone now from Greene and Taylor County. In fact, some of the rain's really starting to let up towards Campbellsville and Greensburg. So you're getting a little batch of quieter weather now back where we earlier had the tornado warnings. But we still keep eyes on that particular storm. If it heads a little farther to the north and east, we watch along that Marion and also Washington County line, including the Springfield area. It doesn't sound like, it doesn't look like this tornado warning is going to be continued into southern Washington County. But again, it's been a storm that has had and has been severe recently. So we'll continue to monitor it for you here over the next few minutes. But right now, while there is some rotation with it, notice it's a little more elongated. And again, in terms of tornadoes, at least the better indication on radar, you want things a little tighter, a little more wrapped up, and that's not what we have right now. You could get a 50 or 60 mile per hour wind gust in a couple of locations, south of Raywick and also to the west of Lebanon. And so that area of rain and some heavier wind, even though it's not pinging very high on the radars, that potential is going to be there. And I also want you to realize, and I think this is something we know when we talk about severe weather across our region, Severe weather is typically very isolated. We may see large portions of the area and the region sometimes under threat for severe weather, but the actual reports and the actual damage tend to be very isolated within our communities. And I think that would be the case right now with this particular storm, especially the cell right just off towards the west of the Lebanon area. Some signs that it might be trying to reorganize a little farther off to the north and east. So we're going to have to keep eyes on this as it moves towards the Lebanon, or rather the Marion and Washington County line. So if you're watching me and listening to me in Springfield now, this is one we just keep a little closer eye on for the next couple of minutes, because as this storm has done recently, we've had those ups and downs in the intensity, and in this case, a little bit of a reorganization, a little away from the main core of the storm. That'll at least need to keep monitoring for the next several minutes. Springfield at 6:40, that's when the core of that storm would be closer to you and your community. So you've got about 10 to 12 minutes before the worst of it heads your way, and it should all pass pretty quickly across the area. So I think as we get into the 7 o'clock hour, we are going to be done with this one cell that has constituted the entirety of any severe weather threat across the WLKY area farther to the north, including the Louisville area. It has just been plain old rain. And just in terms of the forecast, the rain becomes more scattered as we get late morning and into the afternoon. We're going to keep the umbrellas around all day, but we're still going to have some wet weather to deal with in our Friday skies before we start to trend drier, especially Sunday into the weekend. A lot of dry time Saturday too, but that's just something I want you to know, especially if you're not in this location, that we're watching these storm cells. But nonetheless, keep an eyes basically near and immediately west of the Lebanon area. As this moves off to the north and east, I think that stays mainly just off to the north of town in Lebanon. You may still get some heavier rain out of this. It's raining right now in the heart of Lebanon. The worst of it off to your north currently. As you get closer to the Washington County line, we're going to keep a little eye on the curvature within that storm, some of the rotation that has been with it, which is kind of a little bit of a reorganization of the main core of the storm from where it had been, just a little farther off towards the south and west. Pouring down rain for you in Springfield. You're even hearing a few rumbles of thunder. You might even get into some small hail over the next couple of minutes as well. This storm has had a little bit of that, but it's been pinging around a ½ an inch. 1 inch size hail is severe hail, and so we're likely staying below that in terms of hailstones. We have thunder, we have heavy rain and lightning, and then we're watching the rotation within this storm that recently hasn't been as well put together. And now that we're at 6:30, Mo, have we expired that warning?
We have expired that warning.
Okay, so something that we're going to do over the course of the next half hour. We're still in our WLKY morning news broadcast. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch this storm closely. Springfield, you're going to get some heavy rain over the next few minutes and some lightning strikes as well. All indications, though, we don't have a tornado warning, maybe a strong wind gust 40 to 50 miles per hour, but the National Weather Service didn't even continue the severe thunderstorm warning. So right now, watching a strong storm, currently no warnings or watches in effect for this area. We'll continue to monitor it as we've been doing over the last hour for you to keep you safe. We're also going to bring you the latest updates in your forecast for what you need to know for the remainder of the day and the weekend ahead. That's coming up in just a few minutes. All right, it is 6:31 now. We're going to send it back to Carrie and Alex and get your latest news headlines.
All right, Matt, it has been a rough start to the morning, especially in our southern counties where they have been following these tornado warnings. Hopefully everybody is safe out there, but we do want to remind you, if you're just joining us, if you have any damage reports, any pictures, if you would just send those in so we can get a better idea of what's going on down there.
Absolutely, and in the metro area, we're talking about some wet roads. So now that we have the latest in our forecast, let's check in with Mo Roads to see how the roads are shaping up. Hey, Mo.
Hey, so we don't have any big accidents. We actually had one earlier this morning that shut down all lanes coming off of the Kennedy Bridge, but everything's back open. The thing is, though, a lot of rain has fallen in a short period of time. So if there's areas that that tend to have poor drainage. You got to be super careful. You can easily hydroplane. That rain was coming down very heavy. So let's take a look around some of these cameras. So this is out by 65. You can see some police in the distance. There's an overpass. So it looks like they've got someone that they're assisting at 65 out by the Gene Snyder. Going over the Lincoln, the Kennedy bridges, traffic is still moving up to speed. It's almost tough to see some of these cameras, though, with some of the rain. We do have one truck that's pulled over. This is over on 71 South, right before you get to the Gene Snyder, and then here is a view out by the Gene Snyder. So remember, those roads are wet. I know it's Friday. I know everyone's excited. Just take it easy on the gas out there. Right now, if you're coming in on 71 South, it's a 10-minute ride to downtown. 65 North, we're looking at 15 minutes to the city, and 64 West, that's 14 minutes into downtown. All right, ladies, back to you.
Up close, you know, the details are so important, so good. The museum says this exhibit will be complete next week.
All right. At 6:49, we want to go ahead and toss it back to Matt because we've got another tornado warning in our area. So, Matt, let us know where this one is.
Yeah, this is the same cell, guys, that we've been watching all morning long since back to 5:30, and it is now east of Springfield, Kentucky. This is far south in eastern Washington County until 7:15. What we're going to do in our coverage, because once this starts to move east into Mercer and Boyle County, that is out of the WLKY region. So we're going to stay with it as the core of the rotation in this storm, which re-strengthened just as it pushed on east of Springfield, is now prompting another tornado warning. So we're going to watch the core of that rotation. Looks just like it did back when it was in portions of Hart and Greene County earlier back in the 5 o'clock hour. Well, now this has ramped back up. And so once this rotation, the tornadic potential with this storm, pushes east of the county line, and we'll get you back to our normal coverage and wrap up the morning broadcast. But we're looking at some spin that's upwards of 60 miles per hour with this storm in the core of it. And really, this has been a cell that is held together over the better part of the last hour to hour and a half, and while it has fluctuated in its strength, it's definitely picked back up. Here it was moving closer to Springfield, but as we go forward in time, you can see how we just kind of get those greens and reds a little closer to each other. And with that latest scan, this is perhaps maybe the best this storm has looked, and not in a good way, with the potential for rotation and maybe a brief tornado here. 71-mile-per-hour winds in that brighter shade of green right next to 16. You can add those together. So we're talking 87, maybe close to 90-mile-per-hour wind. If there is a tornado associated with it, it would be on the lower end of the scale, EF0, EF1. But nonetheless, it is something that we want to take caution with if you live into extreme south and eastern portions of Washington County. And I want you to notice with the latest scan, those particular points don't track anymore. We have to go to these brighter shades of green and even that pink. This is definitely something that bears watching, because look how we went from 87 now to 120 on that gate-to-gate shear here. So there's strong indications of tornado potential into southeastern Washington County. Now, this is north of the Pottsville area, but if you're able to get our signal and watch us, even though it's not the WLKY area, right along the Mercer-Boyle County line, I would definitely be heading into our safe place, basement, interior portion of your room like a closet or a bathroom, away from windows, as many walls between you and this storm, which has been picking up very rapidly too. Immediately once it passed east of Springfield, the radar indications on this storm have gotten much, much worse just in the last couple of minutes with every scan of the radar. So tornado warning in effect across Washington County. Mo, if we can, or you get a chance, can we do a track on that rotation too as it pushes on off towards the east? I don't think it's going to ping any big areas in the WLKY viewing area, but right along that Mercer and Boyle County line, if you have friends and family in and around Danville, that could get a little closer to you depending on the eventual track. I think it's going to maybe head just north of Danville and stay south of Harrodsburg, right along that Boyle-Mercer County line. But we got to watch it. This is pretty open rural areas of far eastern and southeastern Washington County. Springfield's on the far left-hand side of your screen. This tornado warning does not include the Springfield area. It doesn't include you in Marion, or it doesn't include you in Lebanon, I should say, but it does include, that warning does kind of get into the far north and eastern portions of Marion County. So there's the potential that you might have heard your phone go off for a tornado warning back into Marion County. This does not threaten you there. This is going to stay in the far southeastern Washington County and move along that Boyle-Mercer County line here in short order. Just got another update on some of those points that we've been scanning, upwards of 115 to 120 mile per hour winds in that gate to gate, or what that means is the highest area of where the green and the red come together. And then we get another update and it weakens a little bit. And that has been the way this storm has been going. It's just had kind of peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows, strengthening and re-strengthening over the course of the last hour and a half as it's moved across our southern communities. And again, that strongest area of the storm is getting ready to move away from the WLKY area and out of Washington County. And so once it does so, we'll get you back to a brief recap of the news and the forecast. And Mo, just a heads up, once we do get that rotation east, I want to give a look at the 7-day too, so we can give everyone an update on what you're expecting for the weekend, because the weather's going to get a lot better once we move this particular storm cell out of the WLKY area. So it's south of Mackville, off to the east of Springfield. There's the Washington-Marion County line. So Lebanon, you're much farther off to the south and west, of no concern with this particular cell for you. But we do have that rotating thunderstorm right along the Washington, Boyle, and Mercer County lines here in our extreme south and eastern portions of the WLKY region. The tornado warning goes until 7:15 officially, but I think another 1 or 2 minutes in the WLKY area before it pushes on off towards the east and out of here. This has been the lone storm cell that has been a problem so far this morning. We've had better shower and storm better storm chances, I should say, in our southern communities. It's been a complete washout, a soaking rain of a morning farther towards the north, from the parkways up to the Ohio River, the Louisville area into southern Indiana. We all need the rain gear for the next couple of hours, but we pay close attention to the wind potential. 58 mile per hour winds out there, with even in the straight line portion of this storm, and maybe even higher, of course, if we get into any tornado potential with this. We continue to monitor some of the rotation. There's also been a little hail core in this cell as well for the last hour and a half, and it's been pinging about half-inch size hail with it. So that's up around, let's say, nickel or less across the region. So we just keep eyes on it. So we get a little bit of hail, a lot of wind, occasional claps of thunder, and watching that core of the storm, the rotation that's right along that Washington, Boyle, and Mercer County line. So again, just to kind of orient you, Springfield's back off towards the west. This no longer includes the Springfield area, doesn't include Lebanon at all. But we are going to keep heads up towards, and especially between, Harrodsburg and Danville for folks who live east of the WLKY area. If you have friends and family out there, you might give them a quick call or a text early this morning, because at times this storm cell, when it ramps up, it gets intense, then it fades away a little bit and could ramp up once again through the course of the next 15 to 30 minutes across parts of Kentucky. You can see that storm was elongated. The rotation looked more like a straight line wind gust as it was moving closer to Springfield. And then as that started to push on off towards the east, it kind of condensed a little more. And even though we got rid of the red within it, it was starting to look more like a spin on the radar, and that's when the National Weather Service went ahead and upgraded back to a tornado warning across the area. And so right along that triple point of the county lines, Washington, Boyle, and Mercer, that's where that storm was looking really fierce for a brief bit. And now as it pushes on off toward the east, and I want you to notice too on the storm velocity, and I tell you what, Mo, if we can zoom in really tight to this, I want to show you the main core of that storm is now pushing east. of Washington County and out of the WLKY region. So if we take a complete look at our area, we're going to be looking at conditions that are rainy and will stay rainy across the board for the next couple of hours. It is going to be wet in the morning commute, no doubt, across the WLKY area. We'll be looking at that in our skies for the next couple of hours across the area. In the 7-day forecast, we're going to see temperatures go to 72 into the afternoon. Soaking rain gives way to scattered showers. As we head through the afternoon, will be a little drier into the evening. An isolated shower possible Saturday. Sunday looks dry and is going to be the pick of the weekend at 77 degrees. 80s come our way next week with lots of sunshine by next Thursday, maybe as early as Wednesday night, but in the Wednesday night to Thursday time frame, some of that heat and humidity with the front moving through will bring another likelihood of storms. Mo is just looking off towards the east on that storm. Now it looks like the potential, they're either radar confirming or have eyes on that storm for Boyle and Mercer County. So that's a very intense storm moving just east of us, but it does look like the WLKY area is now going to be free and clear from warnings for the remainder of the day. We just have to deal with the rain for the next couple of hours.
Oh, right. There's a lot of it, so be careful driving out there, okay?
We want you to be safe. Thanks so much for watching this morning. We'll be back for more news and weather and traffic at 9.
Have a great day.